Moving on to Nigeria, of course, the Nigerian market continues to rally. Yesterday, we saw the Nigeria's all-share index closing at 33,511 points. That's 0.6% higher. We saw broad-based gains across the market, and we'll be getting to some results that were released yesterday. Of course, Guinness Nigeria kicking off earnings season in Nigeria with the half-year numbers. We'll be speaking to Shane Adetu, the CEO of Guinness, at some point on the show. But let's now cross to Stanbic IBTC to get a perspective on the fixed income and currency market with Steve Osho. He's standing by. He's a trader with Stanbic IBTC. Steve, thank you so much for joining us. And I know that this week we're having those bond auctions. And what is significant, the key takeaway there is that for the first time in a long time, we're going to see the government issuing 20-year bonds. Now, first of all, I want to get your thoughts about how important this is from the issuer's perspective, given where yields are today.
Thank you, Wole, for having me. I think it's actually key at this point because over time we've seen that the DMO has been coming with a calendar on the 5, 7, and 10 years, which has actually been in circulation for the past few months now. And like you rightfully said, the last time we saw a 20-year bond being issued in Nigeria was in 2010, December 2010 to be specific.
Right.
And now we've heard so much yearns from investors and even from PFAs who have access to long-term funds who will be asking for the long-dated instruments,
yes,
like the likes of 20 years. And we actually had some offshore investors too who are looking to lock into that particular end. So I think considering the fact that we've seen so much rally in the bond market, with the 10 years trading as low as 10.9 right now in the secondary market, I think it's actually in the right direction for the DMO to actually come out with a 20-year bond.
So where do you think this bond is going to be issued, Steve? Do you think that we're going to see it closer to 11%?
Yes, definitely. I think from what the failures we're getting in the market, the possibility is there to see the 20-year print around between 11.45 and 11.5.
All right, and I think it's important to also note that given the fact that, like you just mentioned, that some investors are quite interested in this bond, does that suggest that many also think that we're going to see single-digit yields? Because if you're locking in at 11% or the 20-year, that suggests to me that you think that yields are going to come down significantly.
Yes, the projection for inflation is to see around single-digit. We've heard so much talk about that. And the expectation for the first quarter to the second quarter, even from the offshore investors and even from the analysts, actually saying that we see a single-digit inflation at the end of first quarter stroke second quarter. And the fact being that they're looking at the base effect has actually been significantly low month on month, and that effect are really going to transport into having a single-digit by the end of the first quarter and second quarter. And if you look at the inflation, the flood effect that we're actually seeing towards the end of last year, we're hearing that actually they might not impact so much on the numbers that are going to come out going forward. So if you look at these things and actually combine it with the level of liquidity we have right now and the level of maturity we're going to have in days to come, then the possibility is there that actually might touch single digit in some months to come.
You know, I was speaking to Sam yesterday, Sam Ocheo, and he was suggesting to me that the foreign investor interest is more on the T-bill side. And you just mentioned that some clearly there will still be some investors that will be looking to buy bonds. But let's talk a bit about the rally we're seeing in the T-bill market. I hear yields are now down to about 11%.
Yeah, correct. The reason why we've been seeing some switch into T-bill is because we've seen so much rally on bonds. And some of the offshore investors are actually looking at the currency and saying at this point they don't see so much appreciations again. And if you look at what's been trading in the secondary market in terms of currency, it's actually relatively flat. And at that point, a lot of them are actually being cautious of durations and switching into actually short-dated instrument like one-year instrument, and especially because we have some of those yields trading higher than what's obtainable in the fixed income space now.
All right, let's touch you just mentioned the currency, and the Naira, pretty stable so far this year. Yesterday closing at 157.3 to the US dollar. The central bank also selling, I think that which is the significant point from yesterday, selling $180 million into the market is the highest auction sale we've seen this year. Your thoughts about the activity we're seeing from the central bank side to show up the value of the Naira?
Sorry, I didn't get that question.
I want to get your thoughts about the activity we're seeing by the central bank. Of course, that FX sale is the highest we've seen in any auction this year. So your thoughts about the activity we're seeing from the central bank to shore up the value of the naira?
Well, if you actually look at what's happening in the secondary market in terms of FX, we've seen that since the beginning of this year is relatively flat. And if you look at the performance since last week till now, it's been hovering between 157.20 to 157.35 thereabout. And the fact is because although we've been seeing some flows coming from the oil sales or oil majors, but at the same time, we've seen some kind of slowdown in terms of inflows coming from the offshore. Okay. And that explains the reason why we actually saw CBN sell about 180 million, which is the largest at a single auction for this year. That actually explains it because the support has been coming from all the sales have been coming from the offshore guys and the oil majors. And since that's actually been a drought or some slowdown in that for some time, so it's explained the reason why CBN actually improved in terms of volume and offer.